So my name is Tony, and I was born in 1981. Which, if you do simple math, that makes me 38 years old.
Dang.
And I know. Don't hey, don't poo poo that right now because you're getting there already. So
My bad. My bad.
don't
Go
even
ahead.
tell me that.
Go ahead.
And I've I've always kept video games near and dear to me, and even as a kid, that was always the thing that I always gravitated the most because not only was it a way to escape, it was a
Mm,
way for you to actually do a lot of like critical thinking and a lot of on the fly
mm,
kind of like hand movements with your fingers, a lot of memorization.
mm,
You actually had to do a lot in order to play these games, especially like playing simple platformers like
mm,
Mario, Mario 1, 2, and even 3.
mm,
It You really had to like know how to play the games and like play it well to do it. And as an adult now, it's really funny how, even though that hasn't changed, the love of what I play as far as games have changed because they've changed technology wise,
mm,
but the simplistic part of it is still there. Like I love playing a game that's simple, but then I also like games that are uh like ones that are like anthropic, where you can be able to where it talks about like social issues or people's their mental health and like how they can overcome tasks and be able to do certain things when
mm,
they're put in a hard situation. I love stuff like that.
mm.
And it's funny because we've talked about this idea for such a long time,
Yeah.
and it's you're one of the very few people that I can actually talk to about this, and you actually understand. Like I don't
Mm,
have to like go through and talk about all the specifics of like the games that I like. You already know that.
mm,
Like you and I have shared that, and now that my life is different now, your life is different now because you also have a family. So like
mm,
you've seen that whole change. So but this idea of what we want to do is this podcast, as far as what we want to kind of brush on, is really more of our experience with games that we've played, but also kind of give a little insight of like what we've learned and things that we look for. So
mm.
um my I guess you're gonna be my what do you want to be the sidekick, or do you just want to be the partner?
I'm
What
like
do you
your
want to
co-pilot, dude.
the
I'll be the
co-pilot? I
co-pilot. How does
like
that
that.
sound?
I like that. I like that.
Okay.
So my co-pilot is Emad. Go ahead and take it away. You got the floor.
Thanks, dude. Well, I was born in '83 and gaming since the late '80s, early
Hmm.
'90s. And you know how you're talking about how you learn different things while you were playing video
Yeah.
games and why you like to play them. One interesting thing with me is that like video games actually helped me read because I read so much, back in the day.
Yeah.
Uh, the games, especially like Final Fantasy games, like SquareSoft. It was
Yeah.
called before Square Enix. It was SquareSoft. That's how old I am. But
You even know that.
yeah, dude. But like, it's interesting. Like, the more I think about it, like, there's a lot of games where you had to read a lot.
Hmm.
So instead of this sounds really corny, but like instead of reading books, like I would just play the game and just read in the game to find out what the heck's going on.
Yeah.
So that was one way for me to actually get into reading was by playing video games. So that's how that helped me out. You know, and also just I have a lot of good memories from playing games because I have two older brothers, and we would play a lot. We played a lot of co-op games and a lot of multiplayer games.
Hmm.
So I guess my passion and love for video games stemmed from that era. So when I think about it, I always trace it back to that time. Like having fond memories of playing games with my brothers, and but kind of like you said, things have changed a lot since then.
Oh yeah.
Especially since I have a family now and I can't game as much, so my choice of games have kind of changed slightly. But
Now
I'm still.
is that kind of disheartening that you can't
Mm-hmm.
devote the time that you would like to? Like you can't play a game like The Witcher 3. I remember you talking about
Oh
that
man.
game. Like you had to like play that every so often, right?
Yeah, like I play it like a half an hour or maybe like an hour at a time,
Yeah.
depending on the days I play it. But that game
Yeah.
is just so massive. I mean, first of all, what an excellent game.
Hmm.
But it's so massive. Like I wanted to try to do every side mission possible, but like I wasn't putting in enough time. So I eventually got to a point where I just had to only play the main storyline just so I can beat it. So I could move on to another game. Like I don't like moving on to the next single player game until I've
Yeah.
beaten the previous. I don't know if you're kind of like that as well, or if you can
I
easily
I
jump
I
to the
yeah,
next one.
I really I honestly I have to I don't care about accomplishments like achievements
Hmm.
because that doesn't mean anything to me.
Yeah,
Like there's a lot of people that I know that play games and it's only about the achievements of what they can do and do all these specific things to get their points in there, whatever it is. I don't know.
I
I don't care about that.
no, I'm kind of the same way. Like I don't care about the like in-game achievements, but like the only achievement I really care about is trying to beat the game.
Hmm.
Like especially if I enjoy it and it has a really good story.
Hmm.
Like I would feel guilty moving on to the next game, without beating that game. Like I continued playing The Witcher 3 until I beat it, and then I moved on. But
Yeah,
that's just maybe that's
that's
my weird thing.
yeah. No, I mean I totally understand. I mean I did the same thing with Mass Effect. You know, the first one, the second one was my that was my gem, man.
Mm,
I
that
I
was a good game.
I played that. I put in like over like 140 hours into that game, like no joke.
Like between the
And
trilogy, or
yeah,
like between the
the second
games.
one, the second one,
Oh, that
the second one by itself
yeah, it
was
was good.
about 140 because I spent so much time mining those planets when you can shoot down those probes and it can
Yeah,
like you see like what you can pick your the minerals and the sound waves would go up if you're in a certain spot. Man, I love that. I
you,
love that.
you know what was great about that game? Since you brought it up, I loved how like they gave you choices. You can either be good or bad.
Yeah, there's
And
like a in between. Yeah,
there's
you can do one or the other, and there's always a cause and effect
I
based
love
on
games
whatever
like
you
that.
did. Yeah.
Like it really made you think about what you wanted to do based off the decision that you're gonna make.
Well,
You know,
that was the brilliant thing about the second one is because the whole game revolved around your choices
right?
because your main character at the end of it could die. So the whole idea of a character that
Spoiler
you
alert for
well,
people who
you said
haven't played that.
I said could.
Oh, okay.
I mean that's in the trailer. That was in the trailer, and I don't remember what year it was, but come on, if people don't know Mass Effect 2,
Yeah.
they're the trailer premise, and that's not in the game. It's like they give you they give you the synopsis of your character because they allude to the fact that Shepard is dead or alive because it has that what was it the Geth wasn't that he
I
had
think so. Yeah. It's been a while since I played it.
the N7 like armor. Remember that?
Hmm. Yeah, I don't
So
remember too much about
yeah,
the story, but
yeah. So I mean, the whole idea was that your character could eventually could die, and if he
mhm,
dies, it's not going to stop your game because it's going to continue in the third one, which is a brilliant idea because they went from the first your choices from the first game, second game, and third game. Now, it was supposed to matter in the third one, but I mean they kind of didn't. I don't know what they did with that because I've never seen a studio ever come back and remake their game and change the ending because people didn't like it. Like
mhm,
I've never seen that.
mhm,
I think that right now we're kind of really experimenting with how to be able to do this. So I hope our, any few people that are listening have the ability to just work with us because our audio is not going to be perfect right now.
mhm,
We're still getting it to the point where we can make it at least presentable. Hopefully, not where it's annoying for people to be like, "Oh, forget it, I can't listen to
yeah,
it." But we're learning. This whole podcast is really kind of really focused around our love and appreciation towards games. But
mhm,
we're not always going to talk. But we're not going to always date
yeah,
ourselves and talk about back in the day. Which I say that now, and I'm sure every episode we're going to talk about something else
mhm,
back in the day. But that's kind of the point of it. That's kind of the point of why you and I have such a good rapport, even after so much time that we've known each other,
mhm,
that we still have that in common. Like we don't skip a beat. like there's times when we haven't talked for like a couple months,
Yeah.
and we don't skip a beat. Like we pick up right where we were because we can that time itself doesn't change what it is that we're thinking of, because that hasn't changed at all. And
Mhm.
I don't like you were saying before we started recording that you're like, I'm gonna keep playing, or maybe you did say it, but it's
Mhm.
like, I'm gonna keep playing until I'm old. And
Mhm.
it's like, you're right. I'm probably not going to change this part of my life. Is something that I'm always gonna do.
Mhm. Yeah,
You know, it's
it's like a part of you, or this is like a part of me.
right,
Like I can't
right.
wait to retire so I can have more time to game. Like.
Dude, at some point, man, you're gonna like now it's like you only have 30 minutes or like an hour of dedication,
Mhm.
where you would tell me you would play what's that game
Oh man.
that you keep telling me about, the one that's the MMO? What's that game?
Um.
The one that's a third person and you can fly. It's free to play game.
Oh, Warframe. I was
Warframe,
hooked on that.
yes.
I kind of
Yes.
got burnt out a little bit. I don't know. I might go back to it, but
You mean after years of playing that game, you
yeah,
finally got burned out?
yeah, dude. It's a good. I mean, it's for a free game. It's really well done.
Right.
But
Right.
yeah, it's
Y-
like
y-
like you said, like I only have so much time to play, and I felt
mhm.
like I was so hooked on that game, I was missing out on other things.
Yeah.
So that's why I decided to kind of move on from, or at least take a break.
Yeah.
So I can play other things. Like I told you, I got Red Dead Redemption 2. I
Mhm.
pre-ordered that for PC.
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
excited to play that. I'm like so excited. I love Red Dead Redemption. Like that was such an awesome
Mhm.
game.
Mhm.
Um, you know.
I really like. I'm excited to finally, like, I've put in about 20, I'd say 25, 30 hours,
Oh
and
wow.
I haven't finished the game. Like, I've since this whole process of like how my life is different being here in Seattle, it's totally different. So ever since I moved from Arizona to here, my life has changed. So it's like my dedication and time, just like kind of like how you are, it's shifted. Like
Hmm.
I have to learn. Like there's such a huge amount of like knowledge that you have to know in order to build something very simple. You have to know so much, and it can be overwhelming. So it's hard for me to like play a game like um like play like Red Dead Redemption. Even though I bought the game when it came out,
Hmm.
it sat on my table. It sat on my dresser for so long because I couldn't play that game, because every time I wanted to, I had to think of a reason for me to like say, okay, I can take this time away from learning more of this. Like I was learning animation at the time, so I'm like,
Hmm. Doing something
what do I
productive.
right. It's like, what do I
Yeah.
do? Do I take that time away and look at a game where you have thousands of people, creating something that's like pure, like it's really just art when you look at it
Hmm.
from afar, because they're building something from nothing.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that your character can walk around and feel so real. Everything matters. Like that's what I love about like
Hmm.
Rockstar and their studio.
Hmm.
They do so well with that. They understand like the time that the players are going to put into it, and they don't fail in like putting out a game that's not finished. They take their time and they make sure it's polished, even though there's updates for it. The mechanics of the game, the world, the characters, the
Hmm.
strangers that you find along your way feel like they really live in this world, and you're just participating in something that they created. And it's just, you look at it from afar and you're like, man, how do you accomplish something like that when you have thousands of people working on it in different sections? It's amazing.
You mentioned something really interesting, how you see video games as art,
Hmm.
and I see it the same way. I see it as like moving art. Like so I
Yeah.
appreciate it just for the fact of it being moving art, and you can actually control it, and like depending on the type of game that you're playing.
Hmm.
And what was my second thought on that? On art. Oh, yes. This ties into another one of my hobbies, or like I just love movies.
Hmm.
in TV shows. So
Hmm.
that's how I also see it too. It's like an interactive movie. Oh man, especially with Rockstar games, where you know, like whenever you're playing one of their games, they're so good that it is like an interactive movie, and you get to
Yeah,
control it and decide what you want to do. So it's like I have that appreciation of it. So it's like for me, not only is it moving art, but you can even control that, and it's like on
right.
another level. So I completely
Even
understand what you're saying.
yeah, even going back and playing like Max Payne when it was originally on the
Hmm.
Xbox, you go back and play that game, and that they did some pretty revolutionary stuff where the idea of slowing down time because you're using painkillers to slow down time, you're basically your character is drugging himself
Hmm.
to put himself in in a state where he can feel like he's moving slower. He's moving fast but slow, or fast enough where it slows down time. And that is it's a crazy idea. Like the fact that you can lunge forward. I did that so many times when people characters would shoot at me. I lunge forward with my shotgun, and then you would blast them, and then it'd do like a little slow motion thing where the guy would like get impaled by all these bullets and fall down, and then your character would still be in the air and diving towards them, and then the time would start resume right back up, and your character would get right back up. It was cool, man. Like I've never played a game like that, and they've made games like this, and and bringing it back to like even Max Payne 3.
Hmm.
Like that's, dude, what an accomplishment on that game where your character, he had to like hold on to the weapons. He
Hmm.
didn't have the endless supply behind his back where he had guns all over the place. He had a if he had a two assault rifles, he couldn't hold them. He had a pistol and a shotgun, and he can't carry the pistol and the shotgun and shoot them at the same time. He would holster his pistol or his Uzi in one hand and hold the shotgun with both hands in order to shoot it.
Hmm.
It's incredible. They made a mechanic that never existed, but it's so real.
That Max Payne is an awesome game. Weren't they the people who revolutionized? I can't even say the word.
Revolutionized.
Thank you. Bullet time,
You're welcome.
like the concept of slowing down time while shooting a gun. Weren't
Uh,
they? Was there a game before that? I'm trying to think if there's something before that or not. But
I don't want to say yes because I'm pretty sure that if once we publish this, everything we say is going to be, everything's going to
it's not
be,
going to be 100% accurate.
it's going to go through with a fine tooth comb and say you guys are idiots, even though you're old.
Hmm.
Go take your medicine
Yeah, you
and
don't know
go to
what you're
bed.
talking about.
Yeah,
This is assuming
I.
that people are still listening.
That's
We've been
true. That's
babbling for so long. Like,
we're
congratulations to anyone who's still listening up to this point. Like,
we're
I,
we're assuming that people actually care and they're listening to us.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like for me, for example, I love RPGs. Like, that's my bread and butter. Like, I love that genre so much. Especially like Final Fantasy games. I like shooters,
Yeah, you keep talking. You,
strategy.
you 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 talk about Final Fantasy all the time,
Oh my god.
and the one thing I always tell you is I don't play those type of games. The JRPG only game that I've ever played that I really got into was Secret of Mana. That's the only
Oh
one that
man,
I ever got into.
that's a gem. That was a
That
that,
was the only
that's
one.
yeah, that's one of the first RPGs I actually played. I don't remember if it was that or Final Fantasy 3, but that's
Hmm.
what got me into RPGs.
Okay.
But that and then oh my, Final Fantasy 7, 8, like I have very fond memories of those games. Like they're just so well done. At the time, they're like mind-boggling. Um,
See, the concept of the games, I kind of have an idea of what they're about,
mhm.
but I think the thing about me is the way that the actual the way that you play the game is not, for me, not very satisfying because I'm not a fan of turn based. So I don't see the I don't like making a move and then the other person makes a move and then I don't see anything in between. It's like, oh, I got hit now, or I need to heal myself. It's like I'm not participating in the game. I'm just basically strategizing. Like those what are those games that are like you play, not like Sim City, but like you play, like you're kind of like God, and you can kind of like what are those strategic games? Are
Mhm.
they kind of like the same thing?
Mhm.
Remember Halo
Well,
Wars, kind of like that?
kind of. I mean, those are like more strategy. I mean, there are some strategy elements to Final Fantasy games like Final Fantasy 7, 8, and like the turn-based games, but
Yeah.
I don't know, I just enjoy that so much. I'm a little bit different than you when it comes to
Yes.
that because I love that. Like another aspect that I love about that is like building up your character, grinding,
Hmm.
so you can get like better equipment,
Yeah.
upgrading your character. Like I love that so much. I don't know what it is about it. Like for me, that's entertaining. But I can see
Yeah.
for you
Yeah.
how like maybe that wouldn't be as entertaining. You would rather actually take control of the character. We
They're
talked
just different.
before we
S-
started. I brought up Final Fantasy VII Remake.
yes.
You might actually like that game because from what I've seen, they're having both types of gameplay where one you can pause it and take your time and try to
Hmm.
figure out what to do, or it's like just play the other way where it's more action packed, kind of
Hmm.
like Kingdom Hearts or so you
Where
should
you can do it right then and there.
yeah
Like you
right
can
then and there,
do
yeah,
like the action doesn't stop.
exactly, yeah.
Well,
So
I mean, I'm not opposed to it completely. I think really what it is just a matter of like if the game is going to be enticing for me to want to play. Like I remember playing Deus Ex like on PC,
hmm
and that one was fun. Like that's an RPG game. I mean, that I remember playing, and your character because the world was so involved and it was so like grounded where you actually felt like you were making an impact and the characters were cool, the story itself, the whole idea of the future with human beings and machines melding together is a really fascinating idea. So it's that grabs my
hmm
attention. So like something like that I played like even like in The Witcher where you switch from one sword to another or you
hmm
change spells, the game slows down. And
yes,
then Mass Effect even did that where you can even pause the game on PC. Was it PC that they did that where you could pause it?
I thought it was on console as well. I don't remember, to be honest.
I remember they you could pause it. Oh yeah, you could pause it in the first one, and in the second one I think it slowed down. Or no, it did the same thing. I think whenever you switched characters, you could or switch the your
hmm
enemies to attack certain spots, I think it would pause and then you can do the wheel and then you can attack where you want.
It
So
sounds
like
kind of familiar, yeah.
yeah, I see I like stuff like that. It's really just a matter of I guess I'm not as exposed as you are to all of the type of games, so I look at it very specifically,
Mhm.
and I don't know where to lean into. Like I've
Well,
heard so much about Final Fantasy, and you might be right. The Final Fantasy 8, is that what you said?
yeah. So back in the day, I played Final Fantasy 7, 8, and 9, 10. But
Okay,
I was also referring to they're remaking Final Fantasy 7. I think that game came out back in like 96 or 97 or something like that. So they're
okay,
remaking that.
okay,
I believe it's coming out beginning of next year.
okay.
But let me ask you this: like, I don't know if you have a favorite game or like, what is your favorite genre or something when you think about like a game that just holds a special place in your heart. What's that game for you?
Something I could be able. Well, I mean, I like being able to like play like I guess I grew up on platformers. I grew up
Mm,
on even playing games that are like Legend of Zelda where it is an RPG element to it and
hmm
it was an open world type of game. I like stuff like that. I think really if I were to go back and look at like my favorite game, I would say, or the one that I can always go back to no matter what,
hmm
would probably be Mario 64.
Oh wow!
I think that one. I think that one in by far, or Super Mario World 64. I think that one, or you know what? No, not even that. Mario 3, Super Mario 3.
What about Super Mario World on the Super Nintendo?
You know what? That's yes. I mean that one's a good one, but I think 3 was my favorite because there were so many times that I remembered playing that game when I'd be over at my cousin's house
hmm
and we would find there was a secret tunnel that you can go to and you get all the gold coins. You basically go in, you get all the gold coins on the top row and on the bottom row
hmm
and then they disappear and then you can do it over and over. And I did that so often so then you can get 99 lives because if you die at a out of men, you
Hmm.
you lose the game.
Yeah.
You can't continue. So I remember staying up until like 1 in the morning with my cousin playing that game, and we having to pause the game and hoping that the next day that the game doesn't reset. Because the
Hmm.
Nintendo itself was that whole the whole way that it was designed, the cartridges would just go out. Like you would have to,
Yeah.
blowing on the
Blow on it.
cartridge was something that they said that it never worked, but you know what? It worked for
It
me.
worked. Yeah. For
It
us.
worked.
Hmm.
It worked. And the way you have to put the cartridge down the certain way, you push it down and then let it go or
Yeah,
let
I
it hit
remember
the
that.
edge and pop it a little. But
Hmm.
I think Super Mario 3 would probably be the one that I can always go back to, because that's the one that started me into the idea of these games are not only fun to play, they're challenging, but it's like the way they design these games, it's like I I wanted to just keep playing because it was so much fun, and I loved the character. I loved the character of Mario, the world,
Hmm.
having to fight these bosses, even though it was it wasn't violent, but yet it still gave that level of challenge to it because it was hard. I mean, the game some of the levels were
Oh
very
yeah.
very difficult.
Hmm. Did you ever play? That got me thinking about other games I used to like to play in that era. There's
Hmm.
a one point in time where they made the same type of game, but like put different skins on it. Like,
Hmm.
you remember Double Dragon? Like the beat 'em
Yes,
up style games. Like they were just
yes.
so popular in the early
Hmm.
'90s. Like, my brothers and I would play like Double Dragon, Battletoads.
Battletoads is the
Battletoads,
best, man. Battletoads
Battletoads.
is the best.
Yeah, that game was so fun and so frustrating at the same time.
Hmm.
I keep remembering this stage that we used to play where you had to get on like these hoverboards
Hmm.
and you had to do the same motions, and if one of
Yeah,
you messed up, that's it. It's like,
that's it.
that took that took
Yeah,
precision
you
control
had to
too.
keep you had to dodge those little
Yep.
barriers. Yeah, that was totally difficult.
That was a
And I remember,
rush, back
yeah,
then.
that was a fun game. I remember just the idea that you can throw the characters up against a wall
Hmm.
on the screen. I've never seen
Yep.
anything like that.
Yeah, that was a fun game. And like, what was another game? Oh, Ninja Turtles were just so popular
I mean,
during
come
that
on,
time
man.
too.
If we're talking about Ninja Turtles, you're going into Turtles in Time,
Hmm.
and that
Oh man.
is I okay. So little sidebar.
Hmm.
Right now, like we're talking about that, your kids kind of they don't grow up with these kind of memories of like arcades or going to like the malls and playing games and stuff like that.
Hmm.
If you Google search, I don't know if you heard of it. It's a company called Arcade One Up, and they make like 4 foot small little mini arcade cabinets that already have the emulator and the thing already in, like behind the monitor. So basically, you're buying the monitor and then the box itself you can put together very easily. So it doesn't need all those components like a normal arcade would.
Hmm.
And they have turtles. They have the Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time, and then I think there's there's three of them I think, but it's all four players.
Nice.
That cabinet.
Like that would be awesome, but my kids don't appreciate it, man. We have the Super
Get it for
Nintendo
yourself,
Mini.
then. Get
No,
it for yourself.
like, look, like this was devastating. Check this out. So like, I would show them games like from the Nintendo Mini. I'm like, dude,
Uh-huh.
check out. Look, this is Super Mario. Like we used to play this back in the day.
Uh-huh.
And I'm hyping it up, and they
Right.
played it for a couple of minutes. And they just got so bored. Like the only thing they had on their mind was Fortnite. Like they are addicted to that game.
So okay, so how old are your kids now?
So my oldest just turned 10 like
Hmm.
3 days ago.
And that's your boy.
Yep. And
10 years old.
yep,
Jeez.
and then his younger brother is 7.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and then I also have a 4-year-old daughter.
Yeah, a little
I'm trying to
girl.
get her
Yeah.
into gaming as well. We'll see how that goes.
You're
But
slowly
yeah,
throwing you're putting your tentacles into your kids.
I'm trying, dude. You know what's funny? My
Yeah.
One of the first words from my oldest son
Hmm.
was Xbox. I
Really?
don't know if I ever told you that or not. When he turned
No,
1,
no,
like
no. You never
we have
told
it
me that.
recorded too. I'll have to show you. It was pretty
That's
cool.
great, man.
Yeah, but it's what's interesting, like the type
Yeah.
of games they're into, it's like I'm not into. Like I'm trying to find something that that we can play together. Like, 'cause remember how I was talking about how much I enjoyed like playing co-op games because I used to
Yeah.
play with my older brothers. So I'm trying to share that experience with them. But they're just stuck on this Fortnite game, and I'm not. I don't know. Like I tried it, I'm just not into it. Like I don't care for battle royale games. You know?
Well, it's easy. It's pick up and play.
Yeah.
They don't like Minecraft really created a little community for people to play online, and they can go wild and play the game however they wanted to. There's no
Hmm.
rules. So like Fortnite is like the perfect blend between, a game that you're building, but it's also a shooter, and it's an arena shooter too. So
Hmm.
it's like it's a perfect blend for that. But that's oh man, like it's so cool though because not only are your kids playing games, but you know exactly what they're playing.
Hmm.
When I was a kid, my mom and my dad had no
Yeah.
clue of the games that we were playing.
Hmm.
No clue. Like my parents didn't care. They thought it was a waste of time.
Yeah.
They hated us playing games because they just didn't want us to do that. And that was what we loved. And
Hmm.
now you see it where you actually pay attention to what they're playing, but you can also you're not so like distant away where you're just like, oh, I don't understand what that game is. You
Hmm.
know exactly what Fortnite is, and you know exactly how the game works, but it's just not something you're into. But you could still understand it. Like
Hmm.
that's a complete difference of a parent because you know that.
You know, that's a good point. Like, I'm really trying to be hands on with that. It can be really dangerous because if parents aren't familiar with the types of games that their children are playing, like if they're under, like if they're 10 and they're playing Grand Theft Auto 5, you know,
Yeah,
that's something that they shouldn't be doing, or playing a game that's above their maturity level.
exactly.
You know, that's so I think it's now more than ever uh, really important for parents to know what their kids are playing. You know,
Yeah.
so
Well,
that was
it
a good
makes it
point that
make
you brought up.
it makes sense for you to know,
Yeah,
but because it makes sense for you to know because you haven't lost that part of you.
yeah,
Like your kids may not have that level of like love and appreciation that you have for games that you do, even though you're trying to install that kind of genuine feeling because you're kind of relating to them. You're just like you're kind of leading your life into theirs in such a
hmm,
way because you can relive those memories kind of again where they're different, where your kids are experiencing these games for the first time,
hmm,
but they're different. And it's like
yeah,
it's got to be frustrating because you're just like, why don't you understand? Like, why can't you understand this? And once again, the old people in the room, man, we're
yeah.
just that's exactly what we've become. And it doesn't feel like it kind of happened overnight because I don't feel like it happened like you saw it coming. Like it just
Mm,
I don't know. That's it's different for me. I don't know. Like my life is a little different because I've kept my the core of what I want to play, and now I'm creating an actual career into it. So it's like I've never gone away from it, and it's hard because most people that I know, and one of the main reasons why it's so cool to actually talk to you about this. And dude, before I even finish that thought, I remember when I was working at a I was working at a job in Arizona and I was outside on my break and I was talking to you about this idea. And this is well before your first son. I would say
mhm.
this is maybe 12, 13 years ago.
Wow,
Isn't that wild?
that's crazy. Has it been
This
that long already?
it's been that long that we thought about this idea and you at that point you didn't did you live? Were you still here? I think you were still. No, you were gone. You had moved. You had moved at that point. You weren't living there anymore.
Well, it's been what is it, like 10, 11 years
I
since
would
we
say
moved
so.
from,
Since you left,
yeah,
yeah,
from Arizona to Kansas.
yeah. So I'd say that it's been longer than that. I'd say like 13 some odd years, maybe even I don't know, maybe 12, maybe right around that time. But I remember calling you and I had this idea. I was like, you know what? Ahmed is the only real person that I know that really wants to talk about this stuff, and not only just wants to talk about it, you're kind of just like getting that that kind of, I don't know, it's like a feeling of like when you're thinking of something all the time, you don't want to have diarrhea of the mouth when people ask you about stuff. Because have you done this, like, because I've done this.
Yeah.
Have you gone on tangents on a simple thing when people
Hmm.
ask you, oh, what game should I get, or oh, I'm playing this game, and you just go on a tangent real quick?
Yeah, dude, that happened to me like um like when I used to go to GameStop
Yeah.
and just talk to the guy, and yeah, they'd ask me one question and I start blabbing off.
They're like,
And
sir, you could just leave.
yeah, and they're probably in their head, they're like, God, like I just want to finish this transaction and I want him to get out of here.
Can you just
Yeah.
go?
Yeah. Can he get out of here? There's a long line behind you.
Well, that's the thing too, is that you have all that amount of like, it's like it just builds up because you want to be
Mhm.
able to like talk about it, and there's not a lot of people that do, that it's just, it's not their thing. Like, I listen, like, you listen to music too, I watch movies, I do a lot of a variety of things. Like,
Mhm.
I'm into like, shoes, into clothes, I touch into everything, like, especially tech, things like that I'm into. But I've always, I can, my the conversation can always veer back to that, and
Mhm.
I won't skip a beat.
Mhm.
Like, I can jump into a couple other things, but that one is like, when people ask me that all the time, like, especially the people that I work with,
Yeah.
they ask me something, like, especially like a movie or something. Like, you keep telling me about the Joker,
Oh
so
man.
you can
Yes.
you can you can
We have to do a
you can
whole
kind of.
nother podcast
I
on it.
know, I know. You keep telling me about that, but everyone that I've talked to has been saying the same thing, and I say the same thing. I'm just like, I'm just a little burned out on comic book movies, even that are, based on characters from a comic book.
Yeah.
I'm done, because it's like 11, 12 years of constant comic book movies, and now you're getting more. So it's like, I want a time to breathe. Like, after Endgame, I wanted to just breathe.
Dude,
And then it just,
trust me,
that's
it's in another realm, man. I'm not gonna spoil it. I'm gonna wait until you watch it, and we'll have a
okay.
whole podcast on it. But
Okay.
trust me, it's completely different.
Okay.
I love The Dark Knight. I love Heath Ledger's performance as a Joker. For me, Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, it would rank up there. Like, it's hard for me to say who's better than who, because it's like a different tone. You know,
Hmm.
um, like The Dark
It's
Knight, it was
also,
like,
it's also directed by Martin Scorsese, so it's totally different, and I get that.
no, no, it
I
wasn't
get that.
directed by him. I think like he helped out a little bit. It was directed. You know what's the crazy thing is? It's directed by Todd Phillips, and he is the same director that did like the Hangover movies. Did you know
Really?
that?
No, I did not know that. I thought
Oh
Martin Scorsese directed it.
no, he
Wasn't
didn't.
he like a producer?
I think he was supposed to be attached to it somehow, but then he couldn't stay on board because he was doing the Irishman at
Oh,
that.
see, that's the thing, is that, I wasn't paying attention to it, because when I heard about it, I'm like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
another comic book movie, great.
But dude, like the guy who did the Hangover movies, he made the
I
Joker
know.
movie. And if you didn't know that he had made the Hangover movies before,
Yeah.
I mean, it just blows your mind. I mean, he's a great director. Like the cinematography, the music. Like I said, I'm not gonna spoil anything for you, but
Right.
all I want to say is that you're in for a special treat,
Okay.
and please watch that as soon as possible so
Okay.
we can
Okay.
make a podcast on it.
Well, we will. All right. So we kind of want to like talk about specifically one particular thing. It's primarily just video games.
Mhm.
So kind of tell me, like, if you talk about like the stuff that you did, like, as far as when you were a kid, like, what is it
Mm.
specifically about games that drive you to want to continue playing, or what is it about it that you like?
Well, um, video games in general, they hold a special place in my heart because I've been playing them for such a long time,
Hmm.
and we started with the Atari back in the '80s. I don't remember too much of that, but I remember more of like the Nintendo, Super Nintendo era, like the late '80s, early '90s. So
Okay.
like me and my brothers would play it. So it became a hobby, and it's become like a long time hobby. I guess that's developed, and then now I see games as a different way than when I was younger. Like when you're younger, you have a lot more time, and especially like when you're a kid, you don't have any responsibilities or anything like that.
Right.
But now when I play games, it's more of like a stress reliever. You know, like I
Okay.
still enjoy it as much. Even though I don't get to play as often I would like. This is a long answer to your question. I hope. I
Well,
don't.
I mean, it's different now because like, so let's kind of like let's start like from where like because now you're in a different phase. Like it's
Yeah.
cool because you started like when just like everybody starts doing something. Like you start in the beginning where it's your entire life. Like for me,
Mm.
going to the arcades at the mall
Oh yeah.
with my brother and my cousin was the world to me. Like everything around that revolved around that. Like going to the mall, I didn't really care about going to like go look at shoes or clothes or anything like
Hmm.
that or going to the movies. My thing was during my time because I was born in '81. So you're what year were you born in?
83.
'83.
You're
Okay.
so old, dude.
So I know, we're old folks, man.
Yeah.
We're almost hitting that halfway point. So, but that's okay. That's okay.
It's all
Uh,
good.
so for me, it was really like going to the mall and spending hours at the arcades where you can
Hmm.
see like there was fighting games that just came out. There was Mortal Kombat. There were Street Fighters that were just in the beginning of their heyday, like they
Yeah.
just started. So going there was an experience because it was more of a community. So it's you would see people that could play really well, and you can be able to like watch them, and it was just a whole thing. The music, the sound of the games, the like when people would win things, it was
It was
more
amazing.
interactive.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
yeah.
Like
Like I would
oh,
spend hours there, hours there.
especially when Street Fighter 2 came out. Like
Yeah.
it was such a big deal. And you're right. Like I've been gaming on console and PC for so long that I almost forgot that we actually had to go somewhere and play
Hmm.
on an arcade. And
Yeah.
put quarters in. Like it's crazy. Like I'm kind of sad that my kids won't be able to experience that. But
Yeah, the only real way you can actually start doing something like that would probably be if like if you had your own like an extra room that you can make all these arcades where you can actually get your own kind of arcade so your kids can actually appreciate
hmm
what you can kind of create like that nostalgia kind of look for your kids because they're not going to see that, because now home consoles, and that was the thing is that home consoles at that point and even PCs were running, better games now than they
yeah,
ever did during that time because you can only play those kind of games by putting
right.
money into them. 25 cents for a game was common. 50 cents was like, whoa, what is this? Like you're spending two times as much now for the same game. It's like, why does it cost 50 cents? Nowadays,
Hmm.
games are like $2, $3. Like you go to GameWorks or, if you go to, I don't know, what's Dave and Buster's,
Hmm.
games they're all just shooters. They're all just interactive. Like you're standing there and you have to like people's the joystick and buttons have like been eliminated and now they're just guns and uh, like um, like just like things that they have to like tactile things that they have to move. Like they can't play a game where it's a joystick and simple buttons. Like that's gone.
You brought up a good point. Like we would have to go to the arcades because the consoles at that time weren't as advanced as arcades were.
Yeah,
Like with Street Fighter or like racing games, or I don't know if you remember Afterburner. That was such an
of
awesome game.
course
Like
I
that was an
do.
awesome experience.
Of
But
course I do.
but now when I think about it, like I kind of wish my kids went through those phases so they can appreciate it as well.
Yeah,
Because now they just went boom. They just went straight from. I think they started with the 360 and on,
yeah,
and those graphics were already good from the
yeah.
360 days. And like I don't think they have the same appreciation that we do.
No,
You know,
Well,
and
they can't because they don't know what that is. Like
yeah,
it
you,
almost, it's kind of funny though. When we're just talking about this just right now, it really feels like it's kind of like therapy for the two of us
yeah,
because we're like the old folks that are just talking about back in the day. That's so funny, man.
yeah.
I just thought of this. I was like, this is really going to be really good for us to do something like this because we can be able to like really talk about the things that we did before, but like how it gives like context to like where we are now
Hmm.
and like how much of our lives have changed, but yet that same thing has stayed the same. Even though it's
Hmm.
changed completely, it's still there.
You know, I completely agree with you. You know, I knew some other people that would say like once they get older, they're gonna stop playing games, or or games are for little kids.
Yeah.
But I don't think I'm ever gonna stop playing. Like it's always gonna be a part of my life. I'm gonna
Yeah.
play like when I'm when I'm really old.
Yeah, when you're an old man, by that time there's no controllers and it's just
Yeah,
your hands and you're just like moving.
mm,
That's
or you're
that's
plugged into a machine or something.
yeah, like I've always told you, like all the times that we've talked about this, the one thing that I fear the most is when the controller gets eliminated
Mm.
and it's just your hands. That's what really scares me because what kind of games are you really playing? Are
Do
you
you
really
remember
playing like simulation type games?
they tried to do that with the Kinect? I think they wanted to go in that direction, um, but I think that failed miserably. Like it was a
It's
fun
a
gimmick.
test. Yeah, it's a test. It's a
Yeah,
testing of like they're testing the waters.
yeah.
So at this point, I think we should at least let the audience know what it is that we want to do because we just been rambling and
Hmm.
we've been just been talking, and it's actually kind of fun, and I kind of want to just do it just for us
Yeah,
because
it's
it
fun for me
see
too, man.
yeah, it feels like we're really kind of like we don't get a lot of time to be able to talk as much anymore,
Hmm.
but when we do we only have a short amount of time, but now we can kind of create it where we have time but we're also still catching up with each other, so it's really good on that end. um,
It's a win-win,
so what?
win-win.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So the idea of what we want to do is this podcast is going to be more of a open form where it's going to be talking about like what games that we're kind of playing. We're going to talk about kind of like things that are going to be coming up, ideas of what the game's going to be potentially going to be, things that we should try out, or me finally maybe playing a Final Fantasy game
That would be
that
nice.
could be, yeah, that be one of the goals that we can set.
You know what we can do? I don't mean to interrupt you, but like you should pick out a game for me to try, whether it's like really old or something recent
Hmm.
that like I never played before or never thought about playing, and I could recommend a game for you, and then we can review that as well. Maybe like
Okay.
on one of the podcasts or something. But go ahead,
Okay.
didn't mean to cut you
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea where we can maybe play like the first hour
off.
of whatever we recommend, and then we just come back and say, within the first hour, what did you think of the recommendation that you gave me, and then what I gave you?
That's a good
That's a good
idea.
idea.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that's a good idea. See, and this is another thing is that we're kind of making it on the fly, even though we've kind of structured it a little of what we want to do. But this main section here, so it's going to be kind of divided into two parts. The first part is going to be more of an open conversation about games centric. We'll also talk about other things, maybe movies, TV shows, which I'm sure we'll get into. But the focal point will always be kind of games and like what it, we kind of just dissect a little of it.
Hmm.
The other section of it, which I think is going to be really exciting, and I think this idea is so cool, is kind of going back to how movies have like special features and DVD commentaries or Blu-ray commentaries. I want to do the same kind of idea where we can actually kind of dissect the games even further with a commentary kind of based soundtrack or track with The Last of Us. Now, The Last of Us, the first one, there's going to be part two that's going to be coming out, which they announced for next year, which you and I are, we don't even have to say that we're
Hmm.
both extremely excited
Oh yeah.
for. So, what I wanted to do is really go back and play these games. Like I've already played all these games, and the entire game is on my YouTube channel, which is Level One Tester. At what is it? youtube.com/level1tester, and I have The Last of Us, all the entire game on that actual YouTube channel. So
Nice.
what I was gonna do is, with the two of us, is go back to the first part of the game, the first hour or so, and really do an in-depth analysis of what it is that we're the feelings that we got when we played this game, and kind of rewatching it over again. So it's not going to be gameplay that we're playing together. It's going to be a video of my actual gameplay that I played, that I recorded, and the experience that I had while I was playing the game. Because even though it's been some time since I've played that game, I can still see those things that I loved. And even looking at it from afar, you can see how the feeling that you're getting and the things that you notice, because you're not playing the game and you're kind of just watching it. It's kind of weird, like we're watching it over again, but we're doing a commentary based on it.
I'm really looking forward to that, especially that opening scene. Like, it's been a while since I played
Yes.
it. Like, I
Yes.
can't wait to see that again. And just
Yeah.
to dissect that, and just to pause it at certain points, and just describe what we're seeing, and how we're feeling at that point. Like, I think that that's going to be really cool, and really fun.
Yeah,
Looking forward to
yeah.
it, man.
For when we started talking about this, when I told you the idea of that, doing the commentary kind of base thing with this game, is I couldn't find my The Last of Us art book that I bought, and I ended up buying a new one,
Hmm.
and then somehow I found my old one. So I have two of them. So what I really like to do is send that to you, because when you look at it, you can see all the things that they were talking about, the concept ideas of what
Hmm.
they wanted to do, because then we can actually give the audience a little bit more insight into that game that they may not know, or
Hmm.
they don't want to spend the money to actually, or maybe they don't have the money to spend on art books, which is, you don't have to spend it because you can do it online,
Hmm.
you can see all the stuff, but
Right.
it's a tactile physical thing. But that's just another thing that you really, that you appreciate about the game, because you want to go further into it and see more about it.
That sounds good, man. I can't wait to do that.
Okay.
You.
So that is only going to be that game. So what I'm thinking is, we do sections on this where it's a kind of a commentary walkthrough, um, for that. And once we finish with that game, we're going to move on to something else. So this second part of it is not going to just be The Last of Us. It's going to have video. It's going to have the actual gameplay, as well as our commentary. So this right now is only just the audio based podcast. The second version of this, what we're talking about with doing that running commentary on The Last of Us, is going to have a video with the audio feed on top of it. So you'll get to see what it is that we're actually talking about. And
Mhm.
that's the one that I'll post on the YouTube channel. When I post that on there, then people that are listening, you can go to it and you can see it's like another, it's like a special features, or like an extra,
Mhm.
a bonus of the podcast.
You
And it's
bringing DVD commentary back.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, come on, man. I mean, I when I was like watching the Fifth Element,
Hmm.
and I was reading the commentary, or the interactive parts of it. There was things that I learned about that movie that I had no idea about,
Hmm.
like the one of the concept designs of the models of the Monashiwan, that big ship that comes down in the very beginning of the movie, the
Hmm.
ones that are like the ones that hold the elements, the four elements, the fifth element, the ones that basically hold. They're the ones that are in charge of maintaining these circle. They call it the things that can bring life all over the galaxy.
Dude, I gotta watch it
And
again. It's been such a
oh my
long
god,
time, man.
yeah. So basically, they're like the guardians of the elements of life. And they were talking about the Monashi one that they designed. They said it took up to 6 months for them to design that actual part
Oh
of
wow.
the ship itself. So things like that I had no idea about. And even the part in when they go to the airport, and you notice all the trash. If you remember that scene where the stewardess is like, "Oh, I apologize about the garbage."
I don't
And it's a
remember that.
small it's a small little thing, but in the behind the scenes, there was the reason why there was so much trash is because the people that were the people that were picking up the garbage were on strike. They were refusing to pick up the trash at the airport because they were like higher, they wanted more higher wages or something like that, but they were striking. That's the reason why there was so much trash. It's a throwaway line,
Hmm.
and you have no idea why there's so much trash, but there was a reason for it. And that's what's wild about that movie, is that there was more to it than just what you were seeing. There was actually a reason for why that was there. We just didn't know it.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so like that's kind of what I want to do. Like obviously we're not going to have complete insight on like the game, on how it was designed and what they wanted. We can only take what we interpret
Hmm.
that they were doing, and how it reflects in our like our psyche, like what will we do, because the whole idea of an infection scares the hell out of me.
Hmm.
So it's like putting myself in that situation, what would you do, is perfect, because that's what The Last of Us basically does. They put people in the worst case scenarios. Are you going to survive out of this, or do you have the ability to not only endure all this, but can you continue?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. I think it's gonna be really fun.
Yeah.
Talking about that, talking about upcoming games like Death Stranding. Just
Yeah.
to hear
Yeah.
your thoughts on it.
You've mentioned that game, and I've seen a lot of it. So why don't you kind of just kind of give a brief like overview of why that game is like grabbing your attention.
Well, um, I love Metal Gear Solid games. I like Hideo Kojima, if I'm pronouncing
Hmm.
his name correctly.
Probably not, but
Probably not.
I'm not gonna correct you.
I
The
probably butchered it.
everybody else can do that.
Yeah,
I'm always, let's just get it, let's get it straight. I'm always on your side, and hopefully you're always on my
of
side.
course.
So everybody else, they don't know us, so they're gonna attack us no matter what.
That sounds good. That's fair enough. But that's one of the main reasons I'm interested in it is because the same person who made Metal Gear Solid is making this brand new IP,
Hmm.
and it's just fascinating. It's such a weird story. Like when it first was announced, like you didn't know what the heck it was about. Like I'm still kind of trying to figure it out, but the story seems like it's about um, from what I remember. So on Earth, in this world, I guess there's another dimension that got, and you can help me. You can step in and correct me or just let me know.
Oh no, man! You go ahead. I have no clue what this game is really
Yeah,
about, other than the trailer, and the trailer doesn't tell you anything. Not now. This is the revealing trailer, not the gameplay that's
mhm.
already out at this point. So I think we need to kind of clarify that.
Yeah. Basically, I guess there's some. I don't know if there's another dimension or like a portal or something that opened up, and there's some kind of species that went through this portal, something like that. Like I said, I'll do more research,
Hmm.
but it kind of messed up the world, and I think this focuses on, um, you know, in America. I don't know if it talks about other parts of the world or what happened to that, but um, based off of those, God, I'm just trying to piece together what I understood from it. But it seems like there's different colonies in
Hmm.
like in the United States, and the main guy has to move cargo from one area to the other while avoiding these weird phantom ghosts, or I think they call it like BT
Hmm.
beach things, if I remember correctly. Um, it's a weird story, but I'm putting faith in this guy who's the same guy who did Metal Gear Solid. I was talking to you about this a little bit earlier. I'm a little worried, like if it's only about like moving cargo from one place to another, like that just seems boring, like I hope they have more elements to the gameplay. Like I saw some shooting, some stealth, but if the majority of it is just going to be walking, or it looked like he was riding on a motorcycle, but I'm hoping there's more to it, or they make the like move from point A to point B, like they make that
Hmm.
more interesting somehow. But I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I'm only looking at it from the actual the trailer, and then the trailer itself was interesting, where there's a part where the main character holds his mouth so he doesn't breathe. And I was like, oh, that's a really interesting like mechanic, where if there's something going on in the world where these spirits or these other dimensional whatever they are,
Mhm.
they can hear, like if they sense your, or they can feel your breathing, maybe that's how they infect you or they get you. But that idea where you're covering your mouth, and they showed that, and it's invisible, and you see like the footprints past the character, and he's just like standing there like trying not to breathe. I was like, oh, that's an interesting idea, and I like that. The only thing that seems weird to me, it seems like you're just like a courier and
Yeah.
like a glorified delivery boy,
Right.
and the boxes. Okay, if you looked at the character's, his gear, the way that he has like a backpack, kind of like a thing for his back, and then he's got little things on his shoulders and on his legs, so you can put these things on his shoulders or on his arms, and then you can put it on his legs, and then he has a backpack where you can put all these cargo things that are really high up in the air, so it
Mhm.
looks like he's carrying a bunch of like boxes in a backpack.
I think it
So
has to
it just
it has to do with weight distribution. Like I think you have to set it up in a certain way where it's going to affect like how he walks and runs. So I believe.
but that idea of like doing something like that, that doesn't seem fun to me,
Yeah.
because it seems like you're doing chores. Like I have to go,
Mm.
they give you all these supplies and say, okay, you need to go here to here, and it's like, okay, why is only commuting by, because obviously you don't have to walk through the terrain. There's ways you can actually get on a bike,
Mm.
or you can get on those like vehicles. So there's other ways you can traverse through this world. So why is it only on the ground? Why couldn't your character create some sort of like thing that they
Fly.
can shoot, like not necessarily fly, but like like a cargo ship? Why couldn't they just send a cargo ship to wherever they're going? It would alleviate all this time. So I hope that they make a point to show why your character is doing this, other than, hey, I have these things, I need you to do this and go here. And in between, you'll encounter those spirit things or other people that are like whatever, those scientists, those other people that they have like sticks with like shocks,
Mm.
like they shock you or something like that.
Hmm.
So I don't know. It seems okay. What it comes down to, from what I see, it seemed really silly when they showed the actual gameplay, where the character would go stealth and crouch underneath in some tall bushes,
Hmm.
but he had the boxes still on him, a small amount of boxes, and I'm like, wait a minute, how are you going to be stealthily when you have boxes
Mm.
on like a backpack? Why can't the character take the backpack off of him, then he can do stealth?
I think he
Like,
can do that.
why
I think
can you? Because I've never seen that. I've never seen where you could take everything off.
no.
Like the backpack, you can't take everything
I
off.
think there was a gameplay that I saw where like you had to take it off so you can fight the guys properly. I'll see if I
Okay.
can pull it up or if we can show it or whenever we talk about it. But you know what else
Okay.
was weird? I don't know if you saw like the baby in the jar thing where like
Yeah. See,
you have
that
to
I have no
activate it.
idea about.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like he connects with it somehow and that helps him see the phantom beings or whatever they are. That kind of
I
fascinated me a little bit. Like if they delve into that a little bit more,
hmm
maybe that'll help make the journey a little bit more interesting rather than just climbing over mountains and using a ladder to go from
Yeah.
one. But
That seemed kind of
I'm like, that's
weird.
kind of
Like
boring. Like, I don't want to play a game like that.
I don't care about that.
Yeah.
Now the world itself,
Yes.
the photo realism, like they're not using the Fox engine. They're actually using Unreal. So the way that they've created these like photographic high realism in the way that the world looks,
Hmm.
like the ground, the mountains, the grass, the water, incredible. Like it looks
No, the
photorealistic.
graphics are
But
amazing.
now,
I'm not disputing that at all. Like,
yeah, but that's the beauty of that world. Looks
yeah.
awesome. But what are you doing in between that? Like, I don't
I
know if I'm going to care about being a delivery boy to certain points, because I guess it's that, and your character looks weird because I've never seen a game like this where you're putting all this crap on you.
It's kind of funny in a way. Like I don't know if they meant to make it humorous or not, but
Maybe,
it's a little
maybe,
funny.
because I saw a part of a trailer where the gameplay where the guy can put exoskeleton or exosuit
Hmm.
for his legs so he can run faster.
I,
So not only can he do that,
yeah.
he puts like a exosuit on and he can run faster and he can carry more weight, but there's also his legs look huge
Hmm.
on top of everything that he's carrying. I'm like, that's really looks kind of, I don't know, it looks silly.
It looks weird. It sounds silly, but I want to give it a chance. Um, what was I gonna say? We were talking
Do
about
we know when it's coming
exoskeletons.
out? Did they release an actual date,
I think
or is it
they
still
did.
kind of
I'm gonna Google it right now. Death
computer? Give me answers.
Yep. November 8th. Oh wow, it's coming up soon, dude. November 8th, 2019.
November 8th
Yeah,
already?
dude.
So less than a month. So right now we're recording this on October 18th.
Yep. Oh, I remember what
Wow.
I was gonna say. I
Yes.
know. We talked about Metal Gear Solid 5.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't think we spoke about it on this podcast, but one of your main dislikes of the game is like when you're moving from point A to point B, there's nothing
Mm-hmm.
in between. Like when you're going to advance on a base,
Yeah.
like your
I
other
just
right,
sprinted.
it's like a
That's all I
waste
did
of
was just
space.
sprint.
So
Yeah.
that's a good point. I hope that the creators of this game like they learned from that and they incorporate more things so it's not like you're just traveling over mountains and there's nothing in between like from your starting point to your destination. So
Right.
I'm with you on that. I hope that they add more things, random things, or just to make it more interesting. So
I mean, it looked vast. Like it really looked like it was a far distance of wherever you're going
hmm
because the landscape looked like it just kept going. So I don't know, other than the threat of these things or what are these spirit interdimensional whatever they are,
hmm
if they're always a looming threat, like I like the thing, the little robot little thing that's like a light that flashes, that looks like it's got a personality where like it notices that there's something going
hmm
on. I like that little arm thing that comes out from his shoulder. I like
that's
that.
pretty
Like
cool.
that's cool. That's a really interesting thing where it focuses, like it kind of opens its, like it's kind of like an eyelid
hmm
where it opens and closes and it's like focusing where it sees the danger. Like that's
That's
seems
pretty cool.
interesting to me. Yeah,
It
there's
has
interesting
potential.
things with it.
It has.
Yeah,
It's
it's
just a weird, like the dude is weird. Hideo Kojima. He's a weird guy. Like you can see that from his game, like especially in the Metal Gear franchise.
yeah,
Like just trying to
but
keep up with the
that's
story, like weird things happen in it. I'm glad
he's always done that. He's
yeah.
always done that. It's like modern, and then it's got a supernatural vibe to it. Like
hmm
Metal Gear Solid 2, a lot of people. I remember hearing when it came out, a lot of people didn't like it because you couldn't play. You didn't primarily play as Snake,
Yeah, he played as
which
Raiden. You remember right?
yes, which
Yeah.
I didn't have a problem
Yeah.
with, because what they did with that story is probably one of the best I've ever seen. Like they talk about stuff that like is really eerie about like the way the system of the game's government on like how everything is being controlled. Like they talk about some really interesting stuff. Like if you ever go back and watch or play that game, there's parts in the game where the game actually messes with you. Like it actually
hmm
pretends like your character dies,
I remember
and
that. Yeah.
the continue screen came on and try to fool you into exiting the game. Like it was weird. I've never seen that happen. Like it interfered with you playing on purpose,
hmm
and it would even taunt you when you did die. Like there was something changing in the game, like a
hmm
glitch that you would see. And it's like they did that on purpose, but what they were talking about was pretty wild.
hmm
And this one, I wouldn't imagine. I can imagine that they're still keeping it similar as far as it being very mysterious. I just don't know if being kind of a delivery boy is gonna keep me to want to keep traversing through this world if there's nothing in between.
hmm
That's kind of what I'm. That's kind of where I'm at.
And for me, especially since I don't have as much time as I used to, when I
Right.
play, it's like there better be something exciting going on. Um, while I'm playing, like I don't want to waste my half hour, climbing over mountains and using a ladder from point A to point B. Like
Yeah.
I need some excitement. I need
Y-
something. But
yeah.
you know, I
No, I
I'm,
totally
I'm gonna
understand.
give it
I
a
totally
chance though.
understand.
Like I'm excited to see how it's gonna turn out. It's coming out November 8th. Like I didn't realize it was coming out so quickly.
Hmm.
But maybe we can have a whole another podcast on that. What do you think, man?
Yeah.
Do you
Well, I
have
mean,
final thoughts? We
we
should,
could.
if there's anyone still listening.
I hope that there are people listening. I think our audience will be kind of around our age demographic. I think we'll kind of hit a lot of people that are, even though it seems like we're really kind of talking more about in the past,
Hmm.
but you got to really like understand us because we come from a time where you had to, you know, put in a dollar to get quarters back
Hmm.
or tokens.
Yeah.
Like that just idea to get tokens and put money into a game where it was that tactile thing. That's really where we're coming from. We're coming from an age of the golden era of games, and now they're, you're putting in what, like 80 to 100 hours into these games
Hmm.
typically, and it's like they have all these other things that are in them. Like it's not just a game, like they have these other microtransactions, multiplayer, co-op,
Oh no!
split
Don't
screens.
bring up
So it's like,
microtransactions. We'll have to
I
do a
mean,
whole
that's
podcast on that.
I mean, that's kind of like that's they've always done stuff like, so they're extending the life of these games, whereas you can play a game and finish it. Like, you can finish these games that were older because you couldn't, there was no checkpoint. You had to just play the game and finish it. So we just come from a different
Hmm.
era, but I think our audience, hopefully we have an audience. If we don't, hey man, this is just it just be for
Hmm.
us and good therapy for us,
I like that. That sounds good.
because I need this. I
Hmm.
need this, and for you, because with your kids, it's got to be hard for you to try to get them into playing these games, even though you got them the Super Nintendo
Hmm.
Mini. I'm sure that they don't play it.
But at the same time, like I have to wait until they get a little bit older because like there's some games that I don't want them to play. We kind of talked about that.
Hmm.
Monitoring what your kids can play and can't play. So like I honestly can't wait till they get a little bit older, so
Hmm.
they can play. We can play the same game, or I can share a game that's made for adults. That we can
Okay.
enjoy together. So that's another aspect of it too, I guess, is that they're playing games that are appropriate for their age.
Right.
And if I don't like it, I just have to wait until they get a little bit older, I guess.
Final thoughts are just, I want to I really want to like explore these type of games with you, because it's like there's not a lot of people, like if you have a friend that really likes the same thing you do, and not only likes it but also appreciates it,
Hmm.
it's a different kind of relationship.
Yeah.
And I think that it's going to be fun and rejuvenating for me, because you don't get a lot of people like that. Unfortunately, there's some people that like it and they're just like, like when I tell people what I'm doing, they look at me like I farted, like it's weird. Like they don't like it's so I'll tell you this real
Yeah.
quick, and I'm not going to go on a
No,
tangent,
it's
but
okay.
so when people ask me what I do, I start telling them, and what I notice that they do is they start looking around or they look at their phone, and I know right then and there they're not listening to me.
Hmm.
So you know what I do? I keep talking about it, because you know what? You ask me a
Yeah.
question and I'm going to answer it,
Good for
because
you.
I love what I'm doing, and I love the idea of I'm creating something from
Hmm.
nothing. And if you don't like that, hey, that's okay. I don't need to like the stuff that you like, but you ask me a question, I'm going to answer it for you. And if you're going to keep looking at your phone, I'm going to keep talking to you. That's not going to tell me to stop.
You know what?
Eventually you're going to have to stop. You're going to have to look at me, acknowledge, and then give me some sort of answer. That's how I see
Speaking
it.
of creating, something from nothing,
Yes.
you told me that you were working on a game, but I haven't gotten an
Yes.
update in a long time. I guess maybe we can save this for the next podcast. But I'd be
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
interested in hearing,
Yeah.
like just to see where you're at in the process. You know,
Yeah.
how- just your thoughts on it.
Okay.
I think
Yeah, that's no
that'd be very
problem. No.
interesting to hear.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. What about you? What would you like to? What's your final thoughts? Like in Jerry Springer.
Dude, I think this is going to be so much fun. I'm hoping that we have people who are going to listen to us and maybe contribute in the comments section. Maybe let us
Mm-hmm.
know what they're interested in hearing. Um, and if not, at least we have this because I'm kind of in the same boat, dude. I work in an office of all women, and none of
Mm-hmm.
them play games.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, this is going to be therapeutic as well, just to have somebody to talk to about this. Especially
Right.
like when a new game's coming out. Especially like for me, I haven't played Red Dead Redemption 2, so I'm excited about that.
No, you're in for a treat.
Oh, I can't wait, dude. And it's you know we're in the same boat. It's like you're so excited about something, but you need to have
Yeah.
somebody to talk to about it. So I'm
Right.
glad that we
Right.
have this. So hopefully
Right.
we'll be able to share it
Well,
with other people as well.
exactly. Well, our format's going to be kind of the same thing. We'll do the audio podcast. We'll place that on there so it's people can be able to download it on however different devices that they use it on, and then we'll have the video and audio commentary podcast part of that hybrid of the two. That's gonna be published on YouTube. So, um, I just like to say, I I appreciate you taking the time because I know as you know having a family, having kids, your wife, it's like you're getting pulled in so many directions,
Hmm.
and I really appreciate that you were able to have the time to be able to talk. And now that we can finally get this thing that of like almost what 15 years of an idea, we could finally like start putting, because
Hmm.
you remember when we did this on the
Oh
phone.
yeah.
I was in my car.
Hmm.
Do you remember we just went on tangents.
I remember we.
We didn't have a thought. We just kept going.
What happened after like we were talking for like an hour or so? I'm worried about that now. Like we've been talking for so long. I'm like, oh god, did he
Yeah.
hit the record button and we didn't get any of this? Like
Oh
that
god,
would
yeah, that
that
would
would
be
suck.
that'd be terrible. But you know what? We could probably go right back and do it again.
Yeah, I'm sure we could. No problem at
All
all.
right.
But no, dude, it's I'm really passionate about this, and I'm happy to dedicate some time out of the week just so
Perfect.
we can talk about it.
Perfect. Perfect.
I'm excited for the next
So
podcast.
I yeah, yeah, me too. I like to we'll start getting everything structured down and having a little bit more balance.
More
This one's
structured.
gonna be a little. This one's, yeah, it's structured and it's not gonna be so far off. We'll have at least things that we can stop ourselves, because going into an hour and 20 some odd minutes, come on, man, we're really pushing it. But most podcasts are like an hour some,
Hmm.
so I think we'll be okay.
I,
This is cool
yeah.
because we can get everything set up on this one, and then we can jump into the next one, and that's where we'll kind of like already have that kind of that, not feeling of tension, but like we can move on. So
I concur, man.
all right, man. Well, we're gonna stop it from here. This is the first episode pilot of this idea, and so thank you everybody for listening to Level One Walkthrough. My name's Tony
I'm Emad.
and Emed, and I really appreciate everyone listening. I hope everyone was still at least got something out of this, and we'll be back on our next episode, and we'll continue these old man conversations.
Sounds good.
All right, man.